Welcome back. It's time for another fun-filled adventure. I've been playing hooky lately. I freely admit I have been stalling on the Eagle build and the NX 1000 scale template build. I've mentioned before about having a short attention span and jumping from project to project, and I've got 5 projects going on right now, and I needed a wake-up call, and I got it today, that I needed to refocus and get back to what I should have been doing. But I gotta tell you, I've had one of those modeling weekends where it's just been, you you work on something all day long, and you work later into the evening than you had planned. I want to do one more thing, just one more thing, just one more thing. And, weekends are about the only time I get to sleep in the morning. And I was up again this morning at 6. I just wanted to get back at it. It's been one of those excellent weekends. And it's not been on the Eagle or the NX. And like I said, I've been ignoring those, and I really need to get back to it. I'll give you a quick glimpse at what I have been working on, so that you can see that the time has. Ooh, sorry about that. The time has not gone completely to waste. I'll be back in a second. Okay, here's project 1. Like many of you who have just gotten your robots, I'm working on mine, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's taken time away from other things that I really should be doing, but I'm having such a blast working on this thing that I just can't resist the temptation to pop away from what I'm doing and go over and touch something, or just, paint up a little bit. I found a really good gray, a really good aluminum finish for the kit that I don't mind sharing. It is, of course, a duplicolor automotive gray, or automotive metallic silver. I think it's called antique aluminum. But what happens is, of course, it comes out a bit shiny. But when you spray it with a flat coat to dull it down, it actually will pick up that texture. I'm trying to zoom in on it. It'll pick up that texture that everybody seems to be wanting to try to duplicate without being overboard. So look it up if you've got it. Chance to. It's I'll get that name in a second when I go across the room, but working on little bits of it here. I've got that painted. I've got everything ready to where I am need to get serious about putting lights in it. It's like I say, it's been a distraction, but a happy one. Here is the name of that paint. It is called tarnished silver, light tarnished silver metallic. It's a duplicolor, and there's the number if you're interested. But like I say, once you put the flat finish on it, it really does put that aluminum texture, or that mottled texture from the actual robot prop. So check it out. Now, the other thing that's been consuming my time lately, you might recognize these, is a pair of the they are the Steve Neal Kirk puppets, although they are the Steve Neal by way of Doug Drexler, Kirk and Spock puppets, actually. One's going to be Kirk and the other one's going to be Spock, and right at this point, I still haven't decided which is which. At least not on the bodies. You can see copious amounts of Bondo holding the parts in. I've used Steve's video guide, or his build guide, as a definitive source of how to go about things. Doing things a little bit differently than he did. My posts are a little bit different. They're not sticking nearly out as far, and they're up a little bit higher. Now, there's a significant build difference in what I'm doing versus what he did. He was more interested in recreating the look of the prop when it was auctioned, and that's not my can of beans. I am actually trying to make them look more like they would have at the time of filming for the motion picture. I'm going to be doing one of them in orange and brown for Spock, and one in the cream and brown for Kirk. And I'm going to try to put back some of the detail that was lost between the time that it was used for that and its ultimate use and the time it was auctioned. There's been some differences to the filming prop, so I'm going to try to put some of that back. Okay, you'll have to forgive some of the mess here. We're working on armatures for the insides. Now, this is basically it's one of the arms, but I went with copper and copper fittings instead of the brass fittings Steve's were using, and a copper armature, which I am mocking up right now. This is the front of one. You'll notice that this lip needs to be put back on, that was taken off for auction. The original prop did have it. I don't know what happened to it, but it will line up with the helmet. Now, it's probably a little bit oversized right now. It's just on there with epoxy sculpt. And once I get the helmet lined up to it, I will refine that shape a little bit more. The two helmets. Let me get down on the floor here. Again, pardon the mess. The two helmets. One is obviously Kirk and one is Spock. This is the Kirk head that came with the kit. Now, the bubbles did not make transit with the rest of the parts, and Steve has, I made him aware of that, and he said, of course, he'll mail them right out. I'm not nearly ready for the bubble, but that's the only part that are missing. As far as part counts, these whole kits maybe have 8 parts, so it's not a particularly complicated build. That's the Kirk head, and this is the decapitated Spock head. This was the whole reason I asked Steve to sculpt up a Spock head that he went on and made his Spock busts with. And because I wanted to make a head with or a helmet with Spock in it. Now, a funny thing will happen when I take this off. Yes, it is Spock's Brain Part 2, the sequel. I had to flatten them off. I had to give him the Herman Munster flat top because, and for the only good reason is the way these helmets are cast. This is very thick. I know Steve was slush casting these. He was just rolling the material around, and you got good heavy walls on it, but unfortunately the way the mold sits is like this, and every bit of extra rolls down into here and it just collects. Well, that made it too fat, and I had two options. I could either try to hollow this out more, which is a tough shape to try to get a sanding stone or a grinding stone down in there to hollow it out, or I could simply take a little off the top of our favorite Vulcan. So, and once the helmet is on, once it's in place, you'll never see up in there. So, you know, his head will go up in... It will look completely normal once it's up in there. Even if you look up at it, you won't notice that his head, the top of his head has been shaved off. So that was the compromise. That was easier to take it off the top of his head than it was to try to hollow it out of the helmet. And I asked for an extra set of arms, because what I have got in mind is to change the pose of them slightly to the pose that was more like Spock had when he was mind melding with V'ger, but before he went nuts. Before the big scream, he kind of had his hands raised up in front of him, and that's the pose I want to shoot for. Again, I said not canon to how the filming prop looked, but it certainly, I think it has the potential of looking really nice. But those in a nutshell are the two projects that have been taking me away from the two kits that I really should have been doing. And I need to get back to it. You know, it's one of those things where, oh, let me do one more thing, just one more thing, and then I'll put it aside, or one more thing, and then I'll do, let me just get one more thing done. Well, I one more thing to myself into working a lot of last night on these kits to get them to the point where they were. And I'm feeling it today, I'll tell you, because basically I was working on the back porch and on the kitchen floor. Back porch was where I had the belt sander and the Dremel to clean everything out, and I brought it in here to put it together, and I need to get it to the point where it's ready to heal up and stop and go work on something else, and that's what I need to do. And now back to the Eagle, but to our regularly scheduled program. Working on the template parts for the bottom of the cargo module, and I've made my first set of templates for it, round one, and I've put them down and I've seen where they are too small and where they need to be changed. And now what I'll do is take these results back to the computer and resize them and cut another set. I've done similar work with the decals, the templates for the secondary hull. I've whipped up some shapes that I like, but by the time I put them on the actual hull, I can see where I might need to change the size of some or the dimension of some, and that is the next step, to refine these shapes one more time and then cut what I hope will be the last set of templates. And we're back, and we have a clean desktop, and we have the subject in front of us that we need to be concentrating on today. You've seen me put on templates before. This is the bottom of the 1000 scale NX, top 1000 scale NX. Nothing new there. What I wanted to do with this particular set was to update it to include templates for the new bits, which are the secondary hull. And I have gone through the first set of designs, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, saw what needed to be resized, and now I've got round two of the additional parts, and I will put them on, and we will come back to the video, and I will show you how they look once they're on. And here are the results. You can see the negative spaces that have been taken off of the sheet and applied to the new secondary hull. These are designs that have little to no basis in reality. I simply designed them taking some cues off of the shapes that are prevalent on the top of the saucer. This three-pronged motif that seems to be repeated. Repeated those three prongs there, and precursors to the what would end up being Aztec shapes. And similarly on the bottom, just enough to break up the surface a lot, not to get overly cute or fancy with it. And now they are ready to be sprayed. The top, all of these pieces here that you see are ready to be sprayed the aluminum color of buffing metallic. And what will happen is that'll give me a brighter silver for all of this, and this color that you see now, this magnesium, I think I said titanium earlier, it was magnesium. Once this, what you see covered with vinyl will stay this color, and everything else will become the brighter silver color. So the next stop is the airbrush. Back in a minute. Okay, and this is the last step for today, because I'm going to let this dry overnight. This is the hull sprayed with the aluminum plate buffing metallizer. It's not that easy to see all that much difference now. I mean, trust me, you'll see it when we take the templates off, but because we've sprayed everything with a similar colored paint, it's tough to see that we've made any difference at all, except for the fact that you can see that we have painted over top of the templates And when we lift those up, you'll see that dark, or that darker. It's not going to be a world of contrast, which is nice because you really don't want to make it look like a checkerboard. You just want to show that there's some difference. But you can see now that's shadow line. That band there you're seeing, that's shadow. That's not been painted a different color. See if I pull that out, you'll be able to see that that's... But you can see where I've painted over the templates, and that's the important thing. And like I said, lifting these off tomorrow after work, I'll come home and do that, and then you'll be able to see the big difference. Wear gloves when you do this. The only reason I tell you that is, and I don't normally do it with regular paints, I don't wear gloves. The metallizers, they're different. I don't know what it is about them. They're enamel for one thing, but they're different, and they really need to, you need to be wearing gloves because you'll end up getting it on your fingers, and you'll end up looking like the Tin Man. And I find that, I don't know what exactly is in it, but it irritates my skin like you won't believe. The makeup of the metallizer paints and that metallizer sealer, don't even get me started on it. I gotta wear a long sleeve shirt and gloves and a mask and everything when I use that. There's just something in there that don't like me, so I use it very sparingly. But that's the last step for today. I did get back on track with this, and we should be finished up probably midweek. The hardest part is going to be putting the decals on, but really the next step is to take these off, paint in some detail, some of the other bits like these areas here where the impulse engines are, some other things, and then buff it up. But let it dry. Take the masks off, buff it up, seal it, and then we'll finish the construction.